This is part 1 of the lectures on Overview of Body Systems, which is Unit 9 in our Bio 112 class. All right. Okay, so set up my pen. All right, so this is a review, but we learned in Bio 111 when we learned about the organization of living things. We learned that groups of cells make up tissues, and we learned that there are 4 tissue types in the human body. The tissue types in the human body are epithelial tissue, connective tissue, nervous tissue, and muscle tissue. So an organ is made up of a group of these different tissues that work together to perform a function. And then organ systems or body systems are groups of organs that perform related functions, that work together to perform related functions. So this is a list of organs and the function of the organ, the tissues it contains, and then the body system or organ system that it's a part of. So I think one that's interesting as an organ that we don't think of much as an organ is the skin. The skin just it's so irregular. It's not like it's not like the heart or the kidneys, something that you could put in your hands and pick up. It covers the whole body, and it's really you know all kinds of different shapes, but it's not all together in one big lump, like most organs are. So the primary functions of the skin, first and foremost, would be protection and support and containment, keeping everything that's supposed to be inside your body inside. And then temperature regulation and fluid regulation through sweating and other things. The tissues that are contained in skin are actually all 4 tissue types. Epithelial tissue is on the top of our skin and forms the epidermis. Epithelial tissue doesn't have any blood vessels, so underneath the epidermis is connective tissue, which forms the dermis and does have blood vessels. The skin also contains nervous tissue, nerve endings that detect touch, pressure, pain, heat, cold, and vibrations, that kind of thing. And muscular tissue, there are muscles in the skin called erector pili muscles that cause your hairs to stand on end, cause you to get goosebumps. And the body system that skin is a part of is the integumentary system. So the integumentary system is not just skin. It is skin as well as accessory organs and glands like your sweat glands and your oil glands, your hair, your nails. This is a list of all 11 body systems. Well, I think the list is longer here because they have classified sensory separate from nervous. Okay, we normally put them both together in the nervous system, but we have the nervous system, the endocrine system, the reproductive system of the male and the female, the cardiovascular, the respiratory, the immune system, digestive system, muscular, skeletal, and integumentary systems. This is a picture of the body systems. What I have noticed from the questions that you're being asked on your quiz and your homework assignment is this: you're not really having to learn like little details of each body system. For example, for the skeletal system, let's take the skeletal system. Skeletal system, you need to know, is composed of cartilage, bones, and joints. You do not, however, need to be able to identify each individual bone. You don't have to be able to identify each individual muscle or each individual nerve. There are going to be some images that are labeled, and they will show you these individual structures, but for the next exam, you won't have to identify specific muscles and bones and nerves. That's for anatomy and physiology class, not this class. We just want to get an idea of what the body systems are and what they do, and maybe some of the major components of each one. Where I've seen the most detail in the questions has been the immune system. And that's good because talking about the immune system right now is probably something that everybody wants to know anyway. It's on everybody's mind. So we will discuss the immune system in a little more detail in this chapter. And for the reproductive systems, it does go into detail about like the structures on the male that are analogous to the structures on the female. For example, in the male, you have the testes that produces testosterone. In the female, you have the ovaries that can produce testosterone, but mostly produce female hormones like estrogen. So these structures are analogous in the male and the female. All right, so homeostasis is maintaining constant conditions within your cells and within your body. So those conditions can be body temperature, they can be water balance, they can be conditions like the amount of certain chemicals in your blood, the amount of calcium dissolved in your blood, the amount of glucose dissolved in your blood, the amount of oxygen dissolved in your blood. It can be things like your heart rate, your blood pressure, your breathing rate. These are conditions that need to be kept within a very narrow range. They don't need to go too high, they don't need to go too low. So your body systems, the main jobs of all of our body systems are to work together to help the body maintain homeostasis. Oh, and I didn't underline this example. Okay, so the three examples that are given here real quick, water balance in the body doesn't just include water. It's talking about the balance of solutes that are dissolved in the water. So the things that are dissolved in water tend to be electrolytes like sodium ions, chloride ions, potassium ions, and then nutrients like amino acids and glucose. So there are different things dissolved in our body's fluids. So the fluids would be found, of course, in blood plasma, and in tissue fluid, as well as in your lymphatic vessels. There would be fluid found within your lymphatic vessels. So the cardiovascular system, the urinary system, and the lymphatic systems work together to help the body control that water balance, the balance of water versus solutes in your body fluids. And then your body temperature is regulated by these systems working together: the cardiovascular system, the integumentary system, the respiratory, and the muscular systems. All of these can work together to help keep the body not too cold and not too hot. And the endocrine system is the control center for a lot of different conditions that need to be maintained. And the levels of calcium in your blood is just one of those. Calcium is regulated by the endocrine system, but in particular, two glands of the endocrine system. The thyroid gland is located in your throat, And attached to the thyroid gland are 4 parathyroid glands. They're located on the dorsal side of the thyroid glands. So in other words, they're closest to your back and not your stomach. They're on the back side of the thyroid glands. But they work together to control calcium ions. And it tells you up top the reason calcium ions are important. Calcium ions are needed for the heartbeat, for muscle contraction. And what I mean by they're needed for muscle contraction, let me be specific. Your muscles will not contract without enough calcium ions present. Calcium ions are a part of the series of steps that have to happen in order for your muscle to contract. So muscles will not contract without enough calcium. And too much calcium can cause the muscles to contract when we don't want them to. So too much or too little calcium can lead to death very quickly if it's not regulated and brought back to normal. Calcium can also help activate enzymes, and calcium is also used in cellular communication in the series of chemical pathways that are involved in sending signals from cells to cells. So what the parathyroid gland does is it raises blood calcium levels when it's too low. And the thyroid gland lowers blood calcium levels when it's too high. So the parathyroid increases calcium in your blood, and the thyroid decreases calcium in your blood. Okay? They both produce hormones that lead to changes in your body that will increase or decrease the calcium in your blood. Where your body gets calcium, if you've got low blood calcium, the parathyroid hormone is one thing it's going to do is cause your bones to break down. It's going to cause your bone material in your bones to break down and release the calcium that is stored in your bones. The thyroid gland is going to take calcium from your blood, remove it, and give it back to your bone tissue. So in that way, your amount of bone tissue should remain fairly stable. All right. Another thing that the endocrine system regulates is the amount of glucose in your blood or sugar in your blood. This is particularly important. It's important for everyone, but particularly for diabetics. What happens is that the pancreas, when your blood glucose levels are high because you just ate a meal, the pancreas releases insulin. The insulin travels to the liver and it binds to receptors on the liver cells, and those liver cells remove the glucose from your blood, and they store that glucose in long chains called glycogen. So this is what the liver does, is convert glucose to glycogen. Then, if you can kind of see this process in reverse, if your glucose levels are too low, if you have low blood sugar because maybe you've skipped a meal, your pancreas can release a hormone called glucagon. Glucagon. It's supposed to be a U there. And that will cause the reverse. It will cause the liver to convert the glycogen or break it down back into glucose.